Hey guys, today I'm going to go over the second pillar of my financial system, which is going to be growth stocks. So I want to start you guys off with the disclaimer that this video or any of my videos don't constitute financial advice. Everybody's situation is different, and some of the things that I talk to here might apply to you. Some of them won't. It really depends on your current situation, and it's important to evaluate on more of a one-to-one basis when deciding what the right investments are for you personally. So with that being said, with growth stocks, I'm going to start you off with just the definition and what defines a growth stock. And it's those companies expected to grow sales and earnings at a faster rate than the market average. Growth stocks often look expensive, trading at a high price to earning ratio, but such valuations could actually be cheap if the company continues to grow rapidly, which will drive the share price up. So I actually think this definition is super accurate when it comes to my philosophies and some of the things that I look at and some of the things that I don't look at as much when determining what to invest in. So I'm a little bit different, if you guys haven't figured it out already, in terms of what factors I look at when determining which companies are going to be the right ones for me to invest in. I'm going to take a step back for a second. I just want to talk for a second about the stock market in general, and kind of how I see it and where I see it going in the future. Similar to crypto, I do think the stock market is pretty highly manipulated by people at the top, the 1% per se. I think that, there's certain groups of people that have enough money to be able to swing the market back and forth kind of at will and manipulate the stocks for the everyday trader, so they're not necessarily getting a fair deal. The best way to kind of fight that is to be a long-term investor and be disciplined in your positions, because then you can't get cheated out, and basically played, by some of these top companies. So as far as, regulations and, like will stocks be around in the future, with a crypto type atmosphere coming, I think that the stock market, and securities in general, will likely go towards more of a tokenized platform, and I do think it'll change. But I think, in terms of innovation, there's always going to be new companies, there's always going to be up and coming companies, and there's always going to be an opportunity to invest in really the companies that are bringing the future, and in whatever that scenario, I don't think like the stock market in general will be going away, which creates a great opportunity for us. Some of the companies that, I guess, or let's say some of the criteria, that, I'm going to ignore, that most people won't, when it comes to looking at stocks in general, but specifically growth stocks, are things like profitability, revenue. I do kind of care about sales, and growth, book value, charts. I'm not really a big chart guy. I will look to, buy dips, but, at the end of the day, you're not going to see me reading a chart, and say, this is going to go up like, in the next couple days. I'm really more of a long-term investor when it comes to my positions, specifically in growth stocks. I like to buy them cheap and then just hold them. And the reason I'm not looking at some of those metrics, I think like the average person, you've probably seen shows like Shark Tank, and, if you were to ask people on the street, what are some of the criteria that you're looking for in a company, probably the first thing, most people would say is, are they profitable? Are they making money? Are they making sales? And, for a lot of companies, that is the case. Like, if you're evaluating a blue chip company that's been around, absolutely. If you're evaluating like some of the companies that go on to Shark Tank, and this isn't a knock in any way. I'm totally for small businesses, and I truly believe they're the backbone of the country, and holding everything together. But if you're an investor and you're hearing out a pitch on people that are positioning cupcakes or peanut butter, lobster trucks, some of those things that have done really well on Shark Tank, of course you're going to want to know, is the company profitable? Do they have revenue? Do these people know what they're doing? And those are going to be incredibly important factors. With the companies that I'm going to talk about, I don't think a single one is profitable. And it's a totally different space, because what I'm looking at is technologies that I see totally disrupting the world and really creating their own space. So a lot of them are in the phase of, they're still building up facilities. They're still really starting to, raise money in order to be able to finish building their technologies, in order to actually be able to have those high-level sales and eventually become profitable. And the problem with waiting until these type of companies are profitable and have a ton of revenue is that by the time that happens, it's way too late and you already missed it. And that's what you see happen with these companies like Amazon, Apple, companies that totally change the way that we live. You really have to take chances on them, get in on them early. Otherwise, it's going to be too late, and the average people are going to be priced out of getting a lot of shares. So let me talk about some of the factors that I do look at, when it comes to picking companies to invest in. So, I kind of just mentioned like game changers, companies creating their own space. That is super important to me. If I don't believe in the technology and their business plan and what they're trying to do, it's not going to be for me. I think patents are super important, especially because, when a company has a lot of patents and very useful patents, they're very likely to be able to be bought out or, even license their technology, to the point where they're still going to be successful, even if their business plan doesn't work out for them. A company like an Amazon or a Tesla will buy them out, at some point in the future, if they have patents. One of the factors that, I feel like really differentiates my process when it comes to this is it's a big deal for me, the partnerships that some of these newer companies have. So when I see that a company, I really like Palantir, that's one of my favorite stocks that you're going to hear me talk about a lot. When I see that a company is partnered with Palantir, and Palantir owns equity in them, that's something that excites me. A lot of the companies that I'm talking about, companies like UPS, Amazon, Google, actually own a piece of these companies. And the logic that I have is they're not putting their money in order to let these companies fail. And it's like having an everlasting credit line, where some of these bigger companies are actually relying on some of the technologies of these smaller companies. And it's a big part of their business plan, to make sure that these smaller companies that are up and coming are successful. To me, it's almost reassurance that they're not going to run out of cash, which I guess that's another thing, is cash flow that's important to me. You want to look and make sure they have enough cash for at least 2 years, to be able to carry out their operations, so that they don't run short. Similar to cryptocurrencies, I'm going to look at the owners. I'm going to do a background check on them. I'm going to look to connect dots. I want to see with these companies, who are they connected to? What are they doing? Who are they doing business with? Are there big names that are involved with them? What are they doing behind the scenes that may not be directly up front in your face, that might be a factor here. Proof of concept is important. when some of these companies like are building facilities and are still working on building their technologies, and they're able to get pre-sales, like some of these companies that I'm going to talk about, like already like aren't even operational yet and have already sold out, like for years into the future, with big businesses, to use their technologies. Like that's a huge plus, because it just means like there's literally companies in line waiting to use these type of technologies or whatever it is. I use the word technologies a lot because a lot of them tend to be technologies, but it really could be anything. Anything that's going to be world changing or create some sort of new space. So with that, I just wanted to give you guys kind of a quick intro. I'm going to be going through, I have 20 companies lined up already, that I plan on doing video series about, and breaking down with you. I want to just show you real quick, like similar to a white paper, something that these companies have. It's called an investor deck or a PDF, type presentation, where again, they're 40, 50 pages, like in general, but you're going to get to read the company's entire business plan, and everything that they're trying to do, like what are their growth plans, where do they see themselves in 5 years? They're going to tell you, like, who are some of their ideal partnerships, who are some of the partners that they already have. It's pretty much all in here. Like this is like, one company called Origin, that is on the list of companies that I'm going to talk about. They're basically creating like a solution for plastic, and it's essentially carbon negative plastic that they're creating. And these are the list of companies that have made a commitment to go zero plastic. In what year they're planning to go zero plastic by. And you see some of these names, that are their potential market, and they have little to no competition when it comes to this. They're building facilities ahead of time, and this is all stuff that you could pretty readily find on here. One other place that I'm going to do research is the company's websites and the company's YouTube. I'm going to listen to the CEO's talk, very similar to the crypto environment. I want to hear what they have to say. I want to hear, do I feel like they're confident? Do they know what they're talking about? I feel like body language is super important to me. And like when I see a CEO that you could just see it on him or her, know they're going to be successful, that's huge. Another thing, like, I mentioned like kind of like what's going on behind the scenes, when it comes to these companies. You'll see on here like who are their outside advisors, is another thing that comes up. And I'm looking too, like, the people that are their outside advisors, like, kind of like what are they doing there? What are their goals? Are these military people? Are they people that also sit on the board of some of the biggest clients that they could potentially go after? Like what are the connections? And it's all just like little stuff that I'm looking at, and then eventually making that decision. Do I think this company is going to be successful? The company we're looking at right here, Origin, like when I'm making this video, the stock's trading for about $6.80. And like, when it comes to taking chances and like, building partnerships and whatnot, you have to think too, like in order for you to 10x on your money, like that would be this stock going from $6.80 to what, $68, would be like a 10 times. For something like Tesla to return 10 times your money, it has to go from basically $1,000 to $10,000, as of making this video. And, I don't think, to my knowledge, a stock's ever hit $10,000. Like, it'd be very hard for a company like Tesla to 10x. It really all depends on your goals and what you're trying to do too. Because, if you have like a 1 year time horizon, investing in a company like this is pretty dangerous. It could go down, before it ultimately goes up. or of course a company like this could fail. And that's where, doing your due diligence and looking into these things that I'm talking about, like the partnerships, the owners, the patents, the cash flow, all of those things will help you to determine which of these companies are least likely to fail and most likely to go on to be successful and return you big money in the long term. So the last thing I'll mention here today, and I'm going to do a whole video series on this too, is options. So, I think like before I discovered options, I noticed that, in order to be able to really make big money in the stock market, you need some money to invest. So like, even a company like this, like if you want to get 1,000 shares, that's going to cost you $6,800, which most of us don't have to be able to invest in a single stock, that may or may not make it, just kind of on a clip. But what you could do is you could purchase an option. And what that means is it's going to help you leverage your money. It's exactly what it's called. It's, and this is a call option that I'm referring to. And I'm going to go into way more detail in the future. But I just want to give you that idea, that you could buy, for example, the right to purchase 1,000 shares of Origin, a year from now at a certain price. So like if it trades for, $6 today, you could potentially like say, and you're worried about, the stock going to $25 before you're able to afford it, you could ask for, in the form of an option, the right to buy 1,000 shares in January of 2023 at the price of $10 or $11 or $12, and they may only ask for, $100 or $200 or $300, for you to purchase that option. It basically, is like locking in your spot to be able to purchase a stock at an affordable price in the future. So, if you're into some companies now, but maybe like you feel like you can't afford to buy the stake that you want, you could use an option to be able to leverage a position in these companies in the future. So hopefully this helped give you guys a little bit of an overview on, growth stocks, and, you're excited to hear about some of these ones that I'm going to talk about. I really believe some of these are going to change the world, and, I hope you guys are as excited to hear about them as I am to talk about them. So I'll be back in a day or two to go over Pillar 3 and then Pillar 4. And then from there, really start to jump into this stuff. Have a great rest of your day.